Hey everybody, in today's video we're going to be talking about all the basics of geometry, which includes points, lines, and planes. So there's no calculations that are going to be done today. Today's more of a visual topic, just to introduce all of the basic building blocks of geometry. Okay, so the first thing is, what is a point? A point just really names a location. It has no shape or size. And when you name a point in geometry, you just name it by a capital letter. So when we see this point over here, it has the capital A next to it. So all we do is we call this point and then capital A. Okay, a line is made up of an infinite number of points. So any 2 points form a line, and a line has no thickness or width. So the way that you name a line is you can use a little script letter. Sometimes you see this little script letter here. This one has a little N next to it, so we can call it line N. You can also name a line using the word line and then 2 points that are on that line. So we would write line X, Y. Or instead of actually writing the word, you can just put the line symbol, which is a segment with arrows on each end, and then 2 letters that are on the line. So in this situation, there's only 2 points that are actually labeled on this line, although there's an infinite number of points on this line, but you would just choose any 2 points that are on this line. So if I put a Z in the middle here, or if I put a W to the right of Y, I would still just call it line XY. I wouldn't call it line XZYW. Or I don't even have to call it by XW. I can just pick any of these 2 points and then just name it by those 2 points. And very important, you only use 2. If there's because we know that a line has an infinite number of points on it, you would just pick any 2, not all of them. Okay, so collinear points are points that lie on the same line. So co means like the same, like co-workers work at the same place. Collinear points are points that lie in the same line. And then non-collinear points is the opposite, points that do not lie in the same line. So in order to talk about 2 non-collinear points, though you must have at least 3 points that you're looking at, because like we said before, any 2 points can make a line. You can connect any 2 points with a line. So an example of non-collinear points would be like if I had 3 points A, B, and then let's say C, but C is not in the line of A and B. So if I was to draw a line through A and B, notice how I don't cross through C? That means that A, B, and C are not collinear because C is not in line with A and B. Or I can say that B and C form a line, but A is not collinear with C and B. So that's why these 3 points are non-collinear. And notice how they make a triangular shape. That's how you can tell if they're not collinear. Okay, next is a plane. A plane is just a flat surface. It's made up of any 3 points, and a plane extends indefinitely in all directions. So a line extends forever in 2 directions, left and right, whereas a plane extends indefinitely in all directions. So imagine taking like a desk and you just expand that surface in all directions. That would be a plane. Name a plane by any 3 non-collinear points on the plane. Notice how it says any 3 non-collinear, and it also has underlined the word 3. So even if there's 1,000 points on a plane, you would just pick any 3 non-collinear points, and that's how you would name it, by using 3 of those uppercase letters. So an example of a way to name this plane is you can use the script letter. So we would just say plane, and then notice how there's no point next to this P. This P is just there to tell us that the name of that plane is plane P. We can also name it using the 3 points. So we can say KJL, JLK, JKL, any order, you would just name those 3. So I'm going to call it plane JKL. Coplanar points are points that lie in the same plane. So in this picture over on the left, point K, point J, and point L are coplanar points. Non-coplanar points are points that do not lie in the same plane. So let's say, we'll go back to the desk example. Let's say that you have 3 points labeled on a desk, and then you have 1 point that's labeled on the floor below that desk. Those 4 points are not coplanar because all 4 of them are not on the same plane. 3 of them are on the desk, but 1 of them's on the floor. Therefore, they're not coplanar with each other. Or if you think of, let's say you have 3 points on the floor and then 1 point on the ceiling. Those 4 points are not coplanar because those points do not all lie on the same plane. Okay, now we're going to talk about intersecting lines and planes. So intersecting lines and planes, 2 lines intersect at a what? So if we look at line R and line S, they intersect at point P, so they intersect at a point. Whereas 2 planes, so 2 surfaces, like think of where 2 walls would intersect, like the ceiling and then a wall. They would intersect at a line. So 2 flat surfaces would intersect at a line. All right, so now if we flip over to the back, we just have a bunch of examples. So we're going to look at some different pictures, and we're just going to answer all the questions using the knowledge or the information that we just discussed. All right, so in this picture, use the diagram to the right to name the following. 4 collinear points. So 4 collinear points. So we have actually 3 different lines in this picture. So we have line P, but that only contains 3 points that are labeled. And then line Q, that only has 3 points. But then if we look at line R actually has 4 different points labeled. Point H, point N, point K, and point I. All 4 of those points are in line with each other, therefore they're collinear. So the way that we list it is with commas in between each point. So point H, point N, point K, and point I are all collinear with each other. Okay, a line that contains point M. So if we find point M in the picture, point M is on line P. What's a line that contains point M? That would be line P. Because point M is on line P. Okay, a line that contains point H and point K. So find point H and K. Here's point H up here. Here's line K down here. The only line that contains those is line R. What's another name for line Q? So line Q is this line down at the bottom here. We can also name a line using 2 points that are on that line and only 2 points. So we can call it line JK, line KL, line JL. We can call it LK, KJ, or LJ. So any of those ways are different ways of naming line Q. I'm just going to call it line JL. So I'm going to put capital J, capital L with the line symbol above it. That's the easiest way, I would say, of naming the line. All right, what's the intersection of line P and line R? So 2 lines intersect at a point. So let's see where they intersect. Here's point P. Here's line R. Looks like they have point N in common. That's where they intersect. So the intersection of line P and R is point N. Or we can just put the capital letter N because a capital letter names a point. Okay, use the diagram to the right to name the following. A line that contains point F. So point F is over here. The only line in this picture that contains it is line J. another name for line K. So that's the vertical line here. So instead of naming it by just the letter, the script letter, we can just pick 2 points that are on that line. So we can say BE, EC, BC, or even any of those backwards. I'm just going to call it line BC. A plane containing point A. So point A is just sitting up here in the corner all by itself. The plane that contains it is this little rectangle looking shape, which would be plane M. An example of 3 non-collinear points. So non-collinear means that they don't form a line. So 2 answers that are not correct would be like point D, E, and F, because they are collinear, or point B, E, and C, because those are also collinear. So I'm going to name 3 points that you cannot draw a line through. So how about D, A, and F? There's no way of drawing a line through D, A, and F because a line is straight. There's no way to connect D, A, and F in a straight line. So point D, point A, and point F are non-collinear points. Okay, the intersection of plane M and line K. So plane M is this flat surface, line K is this vertical line. That line is intersecting that plane at one point, and that would be point E. Okay, in our next example, use a diagram to the right to name the following. 3 coplanar points. Coplanar means on the same plane. So I'm going to look at plane R. Plane R is this rectangular shape. I notice that it has V, Y, X, and W all on that plane. So they just want 3 collinear points, so I'm just going to pick any 3 of those. How about V, Y, and X? When you do name 3 collinear points, or when you do name 3 coplanar points, just make sure that those 3 points are not collinear as well, because then that wouldn't work. Coplanar points have to be non-collinear. All right, the next one, a plane that contains point X. So point X is on, it's actually on 3 different planes. It's on plane R, that's kind of the obvious one. It's also on this triangular plane, plane WXZ, and it's also on plane YXZ. So if you look at the back of this triangle, point X is on that. The side of this triangle, point X is on that, and then this whole bottom part, plane X is on that as well. So I'm just going to take the easy way and say plane R. Okay, the intersection of plane R and plane ZVY. So 2 planes intersect at a line that was on the previous page. So plane R is this rectangular shape, and then plane ZVY, that's the triangle on the left side here. Those 2 planes intersect at line VY. That's the line that they have in common. And make sure you do label it as a line because 2 planes intersect at a line. All right, how many planes appear in the figure? We have this bottom surface, that's 1, and then we have all 4 sides of the pyramid, so that would be a total of 5. Okay, how many planes contain point W? So how many planes contain point W? Well, point W is on the bottom plane, the front triangle, and then the right triangle. So that would be a total of 3. Okay, and then our last picture here with the examples. What's the intersection of line L and line M? So line L and line M. So line L is this line that's going through both planes. Line M is on plane Q. The intersection of 2 lines is a point, and that point that they have in common is point E. And then another name for plane Q. So instead of naming it as plane Q, we can just pick 3 non-collinear points. Remember, they have to be non-collinear. I can't say point F, E, and G, or so I can't say plane FEG because those are collinear. I have to pick 3 non-collinear points that are on plane Q. So how about F, I, and G? F, I, and G are all on plane Q, but you can't draw a line through them. So point F, point I, and point G. And then this question, are points D and E collinear or are they coplanar? So point D is on plane P. Point E is on plane Q. So are they on the same plane? No, they're on two separate planes. But there is a line connecting them. Line L is connecting them to each other. So those are collinear. Okay, and then how many times do planes P and Q intersect? Lines P, or planes P and Q, how many times do they intersect? Well, it looks like they're actually parallel to each other. They're both vertical planes. Looks like they would never intersect. So they actually intersect 0 times. Okay, so that's our notes on points, lines, and planes. That's kind of the building blocks of geometry. We'll be using those terms throughout geometry. And if you have any questions, just make sure you reach out. All right, so have a great day.